Hello, children of God. I honestly didn't know that this video was going to come so fast, but I have been led by the Holy Spirit to go ahead and post this as the Spirit began to move. I had to post this before I posted anything else. And I'm going to try to get through this as well as I can right now. It's a little overwhelming, but nonetheless. So this is in reference to the cleansing on the earth. And in the first video, I talked about how the Spirit of God is going to come through and cleanse the earth. And you need an ark. But there's more to it, just a cleansing of the earth and needing an ark. And more about what this is about. God is coming back for his people. He is coming back to redeem his people. And he is going to have mercy on the house of Jacob and the house of Israel. And while it's important that we all know that we have a covenant with him, it's extremely important to know that those who are not a part of the house of Jacob and the house of Israel, to know who they are and that they don't have a covenant, if they have a covenant or not. And so it's also important for those to know who is the house of Jacob and the house of Israel. And as we all know, the house of Jacob are the 12 tribes and also the house of Israel, but there's a difference between Jacob and Israel. The house of Israel are those who have a covenant with God, who have a covenant with God through his son. They're the bloodline of Jacob. The house of Jacob are those with just the bloodline of Jacob, who may not confess salvation, but either way, they have his bloodline. And the Lord is going to have mercy on those. And while for centuries we've been made to believe that the Jewish people are those who are the chosen people of God, I come today through the Spirit of the Lord to tell you the truth, that God's chosen people are scattered abroad, and it is not the Jewish people. It is the people who we consider today African Americans, Blacks, Negro, however you want to call it. Those are God's chosen people. Those are the house of Jacob and the children of Israel. And while we all need to know that we have a covenant with him to make sure that we're saved during this cleansing, those who are not a part of the house of Jacob, the house of Israel, need to check their hearts. In the past couple of years, there have been a series of killing on the house of Jacob and Israel that has been exposed to the people. And this was all intentional, and God allowed it for those who are Gentiles to check their hearts. Because if any moment you can look at any of those killings of Ahmaud Arbery, of Philando Castile, of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, um, Walter Scott, Eric Gardner, any of those killings where you could look at and have to question if they deserved it or not. But you say you love God, your heart is not right. You need to check your hearts to make sure that you have a covenant with Him. There's no way you could watch George Floyd get murdered and say that you love God. Your love is flawed, and you will be judged. So to my white, Caucasian, European people, God has given you grace and time to get your hearts right, to get the filthiness, to get the part of your heart that is defiled, the spirit of racism out of your hearts, so you can love Him, love His people, and have the heart of Christ, heart of the Messiah, and it be genuine. Because during this cleansing, He is going to expose the truth of who the children of Israel are. So there will be no denying of who His people are. Now, there are some white people who are a part of the house of Israel through the spirit of adoption because they love God. They love God with their whole hearts. And it doesn't matter of any kind of skin tone, but they love God. But those who aren't, check your hearts. And I'll do my next video on how to build an ark, how to have a covenant with Him, so those who love God genuinely can be saved through this cleansing. I know this is a hard truth, but pray, fast, and ask God for the truth so your life can be saved and your family can be saved. Peace be unto you, children of God.